Hello, friends, welcome back. Welcome to the next episode. I think this is episode number 46, and I'm going to cover business continuity planning in this video. This will be my last topic in domain 1. So, with this episode, domain 1 will be 100% complete. So, I'm covering BCP in the very last, but this topic, BCP, is the most important topic in the whole CISSP syllabus. So, give a 200% attention and consideration to this topic, because this topic is basically the heart of all your CISSP thought process. So whatever you think about information security policy, control, risk assessment, everything is gonna get discussed in business continuity planning. I have made some videos on BCP before as well, but this video I'll be covering in a moderate pace, and we'll try to cover the whole topic in a way so that you get a mental picture of the whole concept. So let's get started. Let's go to the drawing board and see how we can best understand this topic. So if you see my screen, we have business continuity planning, and this whole diagram is kind of my discussion board of the topic. Having a diagram, as I have explained in my past videos as well, it gives an anchor, it gives a picture, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you understand the flow, if you understand the different colors and different alphabets used in the whole concept discussion, it will really help you to memorize things, and that will in turn help you in passing the exam. So let's just start the discussion on BCP. So first of all, first and foremost, when we discussed business continuity planning, so this business continuity planning falls under a bigger umbrella which is called business continuity management. So what is business continuity management? As you can already make a sense out of this word, like business continuity and management. It's about having enough management practices or enough consideration or planning so that the disruption to business can be tolerated. Like if there is a disruption, how we can tolerate that disruption, how can we manage all our operations, and how can we plan so that our business continuity is not affected. So both BCP and DRP, they fall under this broader term which is called business continuity management. And what is the CIA triad which BCP DRP focuses? So BCP DRP focuses on availability. So this is a very common exam question. This thing can come, that what is the main objective of BCP and DRP? The main objective is to address the availability, and availability of what? Availability of the business. Now, as with everything, the top priority is always people. So we have to be always uh, careful about this distinction, that though it addresses availability, but the priority is people. So this is something which we have to keep in mind when we are answering the question, because in some objective question it can come that what is the top priority for BCP and DRP, and one of the option is availability and one other option is people. So top priority is always people. Now we have a ship here, and we know that this ship is Titanic. So Titanic is a very iconic image for discussing BCP, because at one time it was said that this ship is never gonna sink, and that is one attitude which drives business. It's called the seat of the pant approach, wherein like we think that things are gonna go in a right way, or naturally we will not face so much of problem, so we don't plan for it, right? So that is an informal way of managing business, but the formal way of managing business is having a plan ready, documented, and people are ready to execute that plan, right? So that's what BCP is in a nutshell. Like, we should have enough resources and planning, and those resources, including people, they should be trained enough to carry out the 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 stuff, or the steps which they need to do in order to sustain the business. Now, if you talk of BCP, every organization will have some sort of approach they will kind of follow to address business continuity planning. But typically, this word typically is very common. Like, if you recall your school days, you must have um, you know studied many typical things, like typical human cell, like a round cell having a cell membrane, nucleus, and other stuff. But that kind of cell is not something which you will find in human body, like in that exact shape. So we have got a skin cell, epithelial cell, or nervous cell, or cardiac cell. So they all have different morphological or anatomical structure. But we study a typical cell just to understand its component and its interaction and other things. So typically, and as far as the syllabus of CISSP goes, we define business continuity planning in 4 steps. It could be 5 steps, it could be 7 steps, it could be 10 steps in some organization, but typically this is 4 step, right? So the first step, we should know it, and I think it will really help if we can have this somehow memorized in our mind. These 4 steps, the steps are: first step is project planning and initiation. This is the first step. The second step is called business impact assessment. The third step is continuity planning, and fourth step is approval and implementation, right? And if you see these bubbles here, like the thought process bubble, this is basically the overall theme or objective of the step. So when we talk of project scope and planning initiation, what we are addressing, so this step is gonna tell how the BCP process will work, right? What are the various components which will drive BCP process? That is step number 1, project scope and planning initiation. Now, business impact assessment is basically identifying and prioritizing critical system. This is the theme of business impact assessment. The theme of continuity planning is to develop and implement a continuity strategy, right? It is the real, we call in military boots on ground. So that is the boots on ground of the concept, basically. That is continuity planning. And real boots on ground is approval and implementation. So these are the themes. So let's just start from the step 1. The step 1 is project scope, planning, and initiation. And this is basically the theme, as I said, is how the BCP process will work. That is going to be addressed in this step. Now, when we start this process, it's really good to have a document which is called the continuity planning goals. What are our goals of doing the business continuity planning? And this thing will get agreed with the top management, right? Every step, like all these 4 steps, need a top management approval. Without approval, we can't go ahead, right? So if we go and see further the step 1, you will see that there are 4 sub steps of step 1, which is project scope and planning initiation. And these are business organization analysis, BCP team selection, resource requirement, legal and regulatory requirement, right? So what is business organization analysis? Before we start any discussion on BCP, we should really know that what is the organization for which we are going to do BCP. So business organization analysis is basically doing an organizational analysis of the company from a crisis planning point of view. That if there is a crisis, how this organization is going to be viewed in that crisis situation. The other questions which is very relevant in doing BCP is that why do we need it? Like, why we are doing BCP? Are we expecting any growth, or are we expecting any downsizing, or are we doing it as part of just a business continuity management, that if we are experiencing any disaster or any unfortunate event, then how we will carry out business. So those questions we should answer it. If there is a specific growth or downsizing, we should take those things in consideration as well, right? That's the theme of business organization analysis. So when we do business organization analysis, we kind of look into the operational departments, like what are the different business departments which we have. There could be like if a company is a telecommunication company or a banking company, there will be a core business, and that core business will be handled by a department which is basically responsible for the revenue of the company, right, or the objective of the company for which it stands for. So that those operational departments are going to be identified as part of business organization analysis. Now, next, what we need to identify is the critical support system. This could be IT system or non-IT system, some vendors, some partners. All those things has to be identified. Then we should know what are the corporate security teams, because business continuity planning is in fact related with the security function of the company. So we should know corporate security team, we should know senior executives. If we have everything in all these four things in place, then we can say that we have done our business organization analysis. Now, BCP team selection. This whole work of business continuity planning cannot be done by one person or two person. This need an involvement of the whole organization in a way that the organization, the operational department which we identify in business organization analysis, there should be someone from those operational department who can really tell that what the business is, what are the risks, and how it will be handled, so that this can be documented. So we need to select a team. BCP team has to be selected, and this selection has to be supported by senior managers, because there is a time and effort, or you like the organization may go for extra hiring for carrying out this type of activity, maybe a contractual hiring or some expert for some time, and this thing will run. So that's the reason we need senior management support. Then we need resource requirement. And what are the resource requirement? There is a different circle here which I would like to explain. So resource is required to develop the BCP plan. The plan itself we have to develop. So and then that BCP plan develop after the development of the BCP plan, we have to do BCP testing, training, and maintenance, and we have to implement the whole BCP plan which we have drafted. So all this work needs resources. It's not only the people you will need. You may require some extra building, or you may require some space in the office. You may need some extra IT stuff, so some budget may be required. So all those things has to be dealt in the resource requirement section. And there we have this concept of BCP coordinator who will be doing all these activities, right? So the resource requirement is basically creating team for identifying departments, managers, stakeholders, and having those things documented. And then in the fourth step of the step 1, we should involve legal and regulatory team to understand what are the legal and regulatory implication if the business is going down. It's not only the end objective of the company. If it is a government organization, it is serving some purpose. If it is some organization which is generating some revenue, that is one dimension of the company. But the other thing is that every organization is running in an ecology where it interacts with different organization, different people, local and foreign legislations. So it's really important to understand what are the regulatory requirement and what are the legal requirement. So we need to hire some lawyers or some expert who can put their input in doing this initial assessment of scoping and planning, right? So if we do all these things, then this can be documented, and this documentation is called BCP policy basically. So BCP policy is documented. If you see here, this step finishes like this step is, if step 1 is finished, what we will have as an end product of this step is that we will have BCP policy documented, and it will have an approval of senior managers that this is how our BCP process will work. Now once BCP process is documented, the project scope and planning initiation part is documented of the BCP process. Sorry, I said BCP process is documented. It will be in the very last. Then it will go into the second step, which is called business impact assessment. That the overall theme of business impact assessment is to identify and prioritize critical system. How we will do it? We will do it using these 5 steps, actually 4 steps, and 5th step is the end product, right? So when we do business impact assessment, if you see here, I have two things here, and we can identify these are heart and mind. So heart and mind I have put here just to show that this assessment is basically both qualitative and quantitative. So heart is representing qualitative assessment, and mind is representing quantitative assessment. So qualitative assessment is basically an assessment we do based on our experience, our gut feeling, and based on some decisions which we cannot quantify in numbers and figures. So that is qualitative. And quantitative is basically we do real calculation, and out of the calculation we compare the numbers, define the bottom line, and then we take a decision. So that is quantitative. So when we start business impact assessment, we do identify priorities, we identify all business units, and we take help of data gathering techniques. We identify risk. Vulnerability assessment is one of the way of identifying the risk. Then we do likelihood assessment, which is called annual rate of occurrence, right? So this is the second step. We identify risk and the likelihood of that risk getting qualified, like getting matured, you can say. And then we do impact assessment, which is we calculate exposure factor. Then we calculate single loss expectancy, which is asset value times exposure factor. And then we calculate annual loss expectancy, which is single loss expectancy and multiplied by the annual rate of occurrence. So these are some of the quantitative terms which we should know as part of business impact assessment. So all this calculation happens at step 2, which is business impact assessment. Now exposure factor is not an end product. We kind of guess that how much is how much it will get exposed, right? So these terms I have already explained in the section where I discussed risk terminologies. You can refer my video there. There is a very detailed discussion in exposure factor, vulnerability, threat, risk, and what are the relationship. It's an interesting discussion. I don't want to bring it here because the video length will be too long. So at this stage, you should know that there is an exposure factor, which is how much of the resource, infrastructure, or business is exposed to a specific threat, a specific risk. And we calculate single loss expectancy is asset value times that exposure factor. And then we calculate that single loss expectancy. If it is multiplied with annual rate of occurrence, you will get an annual loss expectancy. Based on these analyses, we prioritize our resources, right? So the prioritized list of resource and corresponding risk is the end product of this step, which we call the risk assessment document. And this risk assessment document, once we have, then we go to the third step. Now this, if you see my diagram, it goes back again, and this is the step here, that BIA documented and submitted to senior manager. What we document and what we submit, we identify and prioritize. It's a document which says that what are the critical systems and they are prioritized, and what are the corresponding risks. Now in the next step we'll take a decision that what we do with the risk, right? And that is continuity planning. What is the theme of continuity planning? The theme of continuity planning is to develop and implement a continuity strategy, right? And what is this process has got two steps: strategy development and provisioning and processing of the continuity planning, basically. So a strategy development is basically a decision making exercise, that whatever risk we get from business impact assessment, from this risk assessment document which I show to you here. Yeah, risk assessment document. Here we have this document. This will be reviewed and we will take a decision that which risk we want to accept, what risk we want to mitigate, what risk we will be transferring. So all these decision we'll make. Again, you can refer my risk terminology video where I have explained what we mean by risk acceptance, risk transfer, or risk mitigation. So we should know the slight differences between all these three. Once we have this thing that okay, this is my risk appetite and this is what we are going to mitigate, this is how much we are going to transfer to someone, or some of the risk we will avoid, then what we'll do, we will provision resources and we'll make processes so that we can address those decisions, basically. So when we talk provisions and processes, we talk about people, how many and what people and what skill we need to address the risk mitigation, basically, or acceptance. Then we talk about building and facilities, hardening provisions or alternate site, cold site, back, hot site, warm site, those kind of decisions we make. Then we talk of infrastructure, like we talk about physical hardening or redundancy, rate level and all those things. Once this is done, this is again, till here we haven't touched the system. We have done no real implementation on any servers, or we haven't hired a new person, we haven't purchased a new data center facility, we haven't rented any cold site or hot site. Nothing has been done. It's all happening on paper. Now step 4 onwards is all implementation. But before we go for the real implementation, we need an approval on the continuity planning. So first approval we took in step 1, and that approval was basically on the format of my BCP exercise, like how the BCP process will work, what are the resources we will take, and yeah, basically that approval. That was step 1. The second approval was that whatever risk we have presented as part of business impact assessment and the list of prioritized resources, that has to be agreed with the business, and there should be some decision based on the presented document, that which risk, what we are going to do with the risk. That was the second stage of approval. This stage of approval is basically whatever we have planned as an action plan to address the risk, that has to be approved in step number 4. Basically, before going to any real implementation, we have to take an approval, and that will fall into step number 4, approval and implementation. So we take plan approval. First we take the approval of the plan, then we implement the plan. Once we implement the plan, then we do training and education of the plan, and then we do BCP documentation, then we do maintenance and testing and exercise. This falls under maintenance, awareness and training. So these terms are very self-evident. I won't take much time to again explain this thing. There is an important concept of vital record program which we should have as an end result of the whole BCP exercise. And what is vital record program? Vital record program is the bare minimum resource, document, or technology required to start the business from the scratch. If everything is finished, what we should have, like we should have one magic box where we have all those necessary information to run the business if everything is finished. So that is vital record program in a summary. Emergency response guideline is also required as a part of BCP documentation, which is which consists of immediate response procedure. It's like if you have traveled in aeroplane, in flight, they give you a booklet of emergency evacuation. So that kind of a small documents, a set of a small documents is basically immediate response procedures. A list of individuals who should be notified of the incident, we should have that handy. Secondary response procedures, like once we are gonna address any emergency response guidelines. So immediate response procedure is one thing. Once that is addressed, what is the secondary response procedure? We should have that document as well in our hand. So once this is all done, then we are good to go. We have one cycle of BCP completed. Now this is not something which we complete one time and that's all set, done deal. We have to do this thing every yearly, and we have to do BCP drill basically, which could be of different type, like tabletop, or or simulation, or a full production BCP simulation, like we really disrupt the primary site and we move everything to the secondary site, or we shut down, or we unplug the primary data center, we run everything from the secondary data center. That kind of testing is required every year, or every 6 months, or every quarter. It depends on the type of business and type of organization, and that will be the testing and exercise section here, right? So this is BCP, and I think if we have this picture in mind, it will be helpful to answer CISSP questions, right? We should know basically these 4 steps and what all things we do in these steps. Rest of the thing is open to our own IQ and interpretation. So the more question we do, our confidence will develop in understanding BCP. But having this bare minimum picture will really help you to master the topic. Now, if you see here, in likelihood assessment, for cloud vendors, we should refer SOC reports, which I have mentioned here. And what are SOC reports? I have done a small video on SOC reports. You can refer that. But there are 3 types of SOC reports: SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. The SOC 1 is for finance. Finance is not a topic of CISSP, so we don't discuss SOC 1 report. SOC 2 and SOC 3 we discuss. So SOC 2 report is a detailed information security control report of a company, that how they are managing CIA and different information security controls, and it gives an analysis of how these controls are tested by an auditor and for an extended period of time. That's SOC 2. SOC 3 is a variation. It's a water down, what we call water down or watershed version of SOC 2, with limited information. It just shows that that the security of this company has been assessed, right? But there is no detailed information, and there is no testing done as part of as in SOC 3. So if you really want to understand some company or some vendors security control, you should go for SOC 2 type 2 report. So SOC 2 is basically type 1 and type 2. So SOC 2 type 2 is the most detailed report. Now on the topic of SOC, there is a different video, as I said, There I have discussed everything in very much detail. You can refer it there. The other thing which is very important is the quantitative tools which we use in business impact assessment. And again, I have taken this example, not an example, I will say that these pictures from the movie Titanic, where we have the business as usual stage, and then the disaster is like the disaster happens, and then we do recovery, and then again there is a business as usual state, which is not the reality, but here I have just shown it to explain those concepts. So what are the important things here? So we have to know two terms, which is MTD and RTO, right? So recovery time objective, maximum tolerable downtime, work recovery time. So these terms we should know. Now, what is uh, if everything is working fine, and all operations are normal and all data is backed up, so that stage will be called RPO, recovery point objective. Recovery point objective will be an indication of the time to which we can restore the data if something bad happens. Now, something bad has happened, then we do initiate system recovery, and we restore all systems, whatever disaster happened, that's called immediate recovery. Now, after immediate recovery, we do backup restoration and then system testing. Then we can say that we have really recovered or remediated the disaster. So maximum tolerable downtime is basically recovery time objective plus work recovery time. Work recovery time is the time we take to restore the backup, and we finally give a system testing, quality assurance check mark that everything is working fine. So the formula is that the maximum tolerable downtime should be greater than or equal to recovery time objective plus work recovery time. There are other terms which we should aware of, which is MTTF, mean time to failure. It is mostly used in context of backup tapes, and it gives an indication that how many times the backup tapes can be used. That's basically MTTF, mean time to failure. It's the backup tape. I've just given an example, which is the predominant use case. It's not only for the backup tape. The definition is that what is the mean time of failure of a system. It's closely related with the end of life, I will say, of a product. Yeah. But but this term is heavily used in backup tapes or the storage disks, you can say. MTTR is mean time to repair, how soon it can be fixed. MTBF is mean time between failure, like how long a new or repaired system or component will function on an average, right? MOR is called minimum operating requirement, which is the minimum requirement for our critical system to function. So MOR will be a part of the vital record program, which I discussed here, right? So with that note, I think I have finished the whole slide, which I wanted to discuss here. And if you have any question, you can put in comment, and I hope you like this video. If you really like the video, put a thumbs up, and you can share this video with your fellow friends who are preparing for CISSP. And to promote my channel, just you can subscribe to my channel. That will really help me in getting similar content. Thanks for watching the video. Let's meet you in next video in domain 2, which I will be starting soon. Thanks for watching.